Hey guys, Dev back with Crime Hive, and I've got an interesting story here that is really just starting to develop, and it's actually pretty rare. I mean, this doesn't happen very often. I mean, we've seen it in movies, serial killer movies and things like that. But we're talking about the remains of two bodies found on the West Seattle beach. And I feel like this is going to be developing as we go. It's a very fresh story. And again, it's just one of those rare stories that you just don't really come across body parts on the beach that often. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Before I do, again, this is Dev with Crime Hive. If you like these videos, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification for more videos and updates on this story and other stories. So as we get going with it here, just to give you guys a little bit of background on this, there was a person filming a TikTok video. If you guys are familiar with TikTok, it's just kind of a shortened version of YouTube, and people had filmed these on their mobile device. And so they were doing this video, and they stumbled across a suitcase that actually contained human remains, and then they actually found another set of human remains. So they've actually, and I'm going to talk about the update on this, but they've actually identified two bodies. They haven't released the names yet as they're still going through this investigation. But just to kind of give you a little background, it takes place in the 1100 block of Alki Avenue Southwest in Seattle. So just to give you an idea, and I'll narrow this down here just a little bit. So you've got Seattle right here, West Seattle, and then if I just kind of click on this image here just to show you kind of what we're looking at here, just to give you the general idea of where this is, it takes place right off the coast here. Now I'll show you specifically the area though from this TikTok video. It's actually pretty interesting to see. You actually see the suitcase, and you actually see these teenagers open up the suitcase and call police because of this foul odor. And so that's what we're going to talk about. But I'm looking at here. This comes from Seattle.gov. This actually comes from the Seattle Police Department blotter. And so what we're learning here through this is they've identified a 27-year-old male through these are pieces of body. I mean, that somebody actually cut up or dismembered these humans. So we're talking about a 27-year-old male and a 36-year-old female. Now, again, takes place in West Seattle. They were currently investigating this. This was on June 19th. The update came on June 30th, just a couple days ago. So very active scene. Not a lot to go off. They responded to this suspicious bag on the beach, and then so another bag was located in the water. So one actually came up to the beach area and was located, and then there was another one found in the water. So I want to show you guys this TikTok video that these teens filmed. So apparently what they were doing, and I'm not even familiar with this until now. There's an app they were using. It's called Randonautica. Maybe some of you guys are familiar with it. I'm not too familiar, but I know that apparently you can create these journeys. It's like a little adventure reality game. Your phone gets access to your location. There's coordinates involved. One of those types of games. So kind of interesting. And if you guys are not familiar, I just wanted to at least show that just to give you an idea of what they were doing on the beach. So here's the video. This comes from another YouTuber here on What's Trending, and so he kind of shows and explains kind of what's going on in this video. So let's have a look, and I'll just kind of pause it as I go through it. You might want to turn up your volume a little bit on this as well.
TikTok users went on a search with the Randonautica app, and it took them to a nearby beach with a few rocks and a random suitcase. In the video, the kids thought it was me.
So that's the suitcase on the beach, and we're going to see a little bit more
here. They were
here.
joking about it just being inside the suitcase, but when they got closer, they realized it wasn't right. Open it. It stinks, y'all.
So look at that. So they actually opened it up with a stick, and so you can actually see the plastic bag on there. So this is what we're talking about, and we're going to talk about kind of the psychology of this as well, because again, this stuff doesn't happen. I mean, we're talking about somebody that is either truly evil does not have any regard for humans, or may have some sort of mental illness. But studies have shown that really mental illness is not linked to violence in a lot of cases. A lot of it's really a misconception. So we're really possibly talking about a psychopath, somebody that truly just doesn't care. I mean, to go through the extent of chopping up a body, or however they dismembered this body and then placed it in this bag. I mean, this is pretty calculated here. Police did say that they don't see a connection to other cases in the area, so that tells me that maybe they have a person of interest, or this is a very fresh case, and we might be seeing more of this individual who apparently is very angry or evil, just doesn't care, and is disposing of bodies on the beach area there. So I just thought that was interesting with the TikTok video to actually see actual evidence that close here. You don't typically see this kind of information like this. And so what are your guys' thoughts on this? Have you seen anything like this from recent reports or videos, evidence like this? I mean, these are teenagers that are stumbling across this from this app they were using. So let's continue here.
They said the suitcase was overwhelming in smell and truly disgusting. It was discovered inside of it, a black plastic bag covering whatever was causing the stench. Obviously concerned at that point, the kids decided to call the police because that's what you do when you find any suitcase down by the river. Okay, so she's calling the police so we can...
So it actually shows them they're calling the police.
Here's the crime scene. It took the police more than 3 hours to come to the scene, but in another video, the users...
And so you see the other bag, apparently. Well, no, that might actually still be the first one here, but they did find one in the water. Now, it mentioned that it took police 3 hours to get there. And, I don't know if you guys have been following some of the other things going on. They've got that chop zone going on with the protests, the protesters and all that. And it's apparently... police calls, it's taken them a very long time to get to some of these scenes. So 3 hours for this. Maybe police didn't think it was much at the time. Could have been an animal. And then, this is one of those rare occasions. So play a little bit more, maybe a few more seconds here.
Coming up and exposed the contents of the bag as well. Now, the police actually didn't associate the TikTok teens really finding the bag, but a lot of more reports have really discovered or accredited them to finding it. But the police also found, shockingly, more human remains spread throughout the beach. The comment section has been filled with concerned comments. A lot of users posted things like, quote, "Bro, imagine if you opened it."
So anyway, I just wanted to show you guys that small clip about that. I just thought that was really interesting in this case. So again, a couple things I just wanted to touch on here, as this is such a new investigation with them. One thing that I found here that I thought was interesting, because when you're talking about a body in water, I mean, you typically just can't use traditional methods of evidence collection. I mean, they can't just get out the plastic bags and the brown paper bags and that sort of stuff to mark evidence. So there's different methods out there. I'm curious, for all you CSI people out there, people that are interested in that, what types of methods or tools that you think that these investigators would be utilizing here for a case like this. I'm just going to show you one that I thought was really interesting, as I like to educate a little bit on this channel here. And so what I discovered here was this man kind of came up with this idea of using stockings, like leggings, to collect evidence underwater. So he goes through, and apparently he goes through these demos and he teaches about this method, and he has these stockings and he's rolling them up on his arm, and then as a protection barrier on his skin, and then he uses another one to go over the hand or the foot of this body part, and it kind of acts as a mesh type of material, so the liquid can still come out, the water can still come out of it, and it can still trap other potential trace evidence from the body part. It can go over a shoe, can go on, you could place it over the foot. So I'm going to show a quick little demonstration of that he does, just to give you an idea. This comes from a website, looks like it's tdisdi.com. And this guy gives a little demonstration. So I'm just going to show that for a minute, just because I thought it was pretty interesting and related somewhat to this type of case.
Of evidence, preservation of evidence, documenting evidence, and one of the things that we've talked about consistently over the years has been the ability to bag heads, hands, and feet. The idea being, if we can bag the heads, hands, and feet, we preserve trace evidence. It could be called hair, underneath fingernails, and the socks that were for a shoe. But the problem is all the stuff that we've had available to us to do that bagging has been made for surface. When we get into the water, the paper bags, the little plastic things that I've seen, they don't work. So we tried for years to use things like Ziploc bags, wire ties, or ropes, or anything that would hold and preserve. And the problem with everything that we tried was they would fail because the weight of the water would cause whatever we were using to fall off. We were never able to do that correctly. Then I had an idea.
And then he comes up with this idea, apparently, which is pretty interesting.
Figure out a way to put something over the hands and feet that will actually preserve trace evidence. Now, if there's blood, I'm probably not going to see it. The technique that I'm going to show you, we can do in zero visibility. So if there was blood on there, we're not going to save it. But if we move the body in the water, it's not going to be there when it comes up anyway. What we're looking for is the ability to save and preserve whatever might be there. Well, if I'm going to trap that, I need mesh. If I have mesh, it'll let water out. Then I can put mesh on, and water goes, and the stuff stays inside the trap. For 50 cents at Walmart, I can buy women's
What do you guys
thigh-high stockings.
What do you guys think about that?
Now, my understanding of the way these things are made is they're going to be made in a production plant, so no human hand has touched these on the inside. They not be
So, and I'll just kind of fast forward a little bit, and it shows him actually putting it on just as an example here. So he unrolls it, and I'll just see if I can show you. So he kind of explains how it works, how he does it, his method.
It's going to go on just like a condom.
Talks about it putting on like a condom, and then
Material. We'll have extra. So
I'll show you kind of if it will. Here you go. So he put it over the hand right there. And so anyway, just wanted to show you that. It was kind of interesting. He also puts one over the foot, and then he puts one over the shoe here, which is interesting because if somebody's wearing a shoe, it can also preserve potential evidence when they bring the body back to the lab. So again, we're talking about pieces here of a body, not a full intact human that was found in the suitcase. And I'll just show this last little part where he puts it over the foot here before I stop it. So this is his little method.
this we're prepping with, so when I'm in the water, I'm not going to have this on in the water, so you all understand. But if I
All right, so you guys get the idea. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of an interesting method. And then, again, looking through these different articles that I'm seeing here, just to give you an idea, again, and this article explains it really well. When we're talking about dismembering a body, how strenuous that is, the type of task, how long this would take, and how even hardened criminals couldn't stomach this. So I just like the way this was explained because it's true. I mean, this is really rare. You don't see these kind of cases very often, and it talks about a couple things here I just wanted to mention. For one, choosing the tool, and it talks about how a hacksaw worked for this man named Enrique, and how hatchets and even simple chainsaws don't get it done. So you got to either this person has knowledge about this, or and you can really determine that when they take the body parts to the lab. I mean, they can tell if these are fine cuts, or if it's just with a hacksaw, for example. So you can really get an idea of the expertise of this individual just from the cutting aspect. So I'm not going to get too gruesome with this, so you guys don't need to shy away on that. I don't want to get too if you guys are if you don't have the stomach for this kind of information, but just to give you an idea, of course, we know Jeffrey Dahmer, very notorious serial killer, had hacked up 17 boys and men, and then of course he ate part of their remains. So and that's a very significant story. We're talking about several cases there. Don't know about this one. This could just be the first and the last, could be the start of something, could be a new serial killer out there. And that brings up one other point I just wanted to mention. There's a lot of myths and a lot of facts regarding serial killers that may or may not be true. And I'm probably going to do another video on this, but I just wanted to point out one interesting thing. This comes from the Radford University. It's a serial killer database, and it kind of tracks all these different facts about serial killers. And really, back in the 70s, through the 90s, there were about 104 active serial killers, they believed, operating in the US. And then it goes in 1974, so there was 147 in 1984 and 151 in 1994. And then they actually think that number went down after the 90s, and they think because of technology and just the fear of being caught, people are easily caught now these days. They believe that back in 2000, so the 90s they say it goes down, but in 2015 they said, and this was the last year that they collected that data, that they believe there's only maybe 30 serial killers actively out there in the US. So pretty interesting, and there's a lot of different stats on this, and if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, I can post these links, but I'm probably going to do another video on this too, just to give some some facts and to break some of those myths that a lot of people think about when it comes to serial killers. So let me know what you guys think about that, if you'd like me to do a video on that. And again, this is Dev with Crime Hive. Just wanted to mention that story. You guys can learn more about it, and I'll come out with another update once I know more. And right now, the names of those victims were not identified. Shortly, we should be finding out about that once the next of kin is notified. And if you guys aren't familiar with that, next of kin is extremely important. A lot of times they withhold names of the deceased individuals because the family needs to be notified. And oftentimes it's not over the phone. They actually have to physically send law enforcement, a police officer, to the door of the family so that they can actually in person explain to the family that this person was killed or was murdered or is deceased. And because it's often, obviously for good reason, it's a traumatic experience for the family, and it's not necessarily the most respectful way to call them up out of the blue on a phone call. So it can sometimes take some time to track down the next of kin and actually relay that information, and then after that, that information can be given in these reports. So anyway, just wanted to leave you guys with that. Again, this is Dev with Crime Hive. I'll be back with another video. You guys take care. We'll see you guys in another one soon.